Hello, everyone. I'm Francisca. I'm from Portugal. I'm Portuguese Angolan, and I live in Guadeloupe, where we did our ESC project. And I prepared a small presentation for you that I'm gonna share right away. So I'm the director of ŷLE Y A and co-founder. ŷLE Y A is a nonprofit from Guadeloupe. For those of you that don't know, Guadeloupe is in the Caribbean. It's a French outermost territory that in the Caribbean. And I'm gonna start introducing my team. Donc myself, I'm Francisca, and I created ŷLE Y A with Aloha. We were also the main proponents of the ESC project. We had with us 3 other friends, but they were more in a function of support. They had smaller tasks, so in reality, it was mainly our project. So I think it is important to tell you a bit how I met Aloha. We met in a social and solidarity economy business creation training. So when we met, our goal was already to create our own jobs and to create a nonprofit that would have an economical aspect in terms of jobs and also economical impact. So this was how we started everything, let's say like that. Our first steps in that logic were to do a market study and a business plan. So we spent this was in 2018. We spent some time doing the business plan, and we created ŷLE Y A in August 2018. So from there, we did our project. So we applied for a ESC Solidarity project. I believe in the second date, I don't remember exactly, but the project took place between August 2019 and July 2020. So the project was called in French Il y a des histoires, in English Histories of a City, but it's not a very good translation. So it's approximative thing. So I'm going to tell you a bit about our objectives. I think it is important for me to contextualize a bit the city that we are talking about. So the project takes place in Pointe-à-Pitre, which is I would say maybe the only city in terms of how we expect a city to be, like with a city center and the outskirts around. In Guadeloupe, we don't have other cities like that here. And it's a city that used to be the economical hub of Guadeloupe until the 90s. In the 90s, it was already declining a bit, but it was really the main economical hub. At the time, in the 80s, it got to 30,000 inhabitants, more or less. And from the 80s, it started going down. And today we are between 13,000 and 15,000 inhabitants. And most of the city is nowadays a social prioritary neighborhood. So all the neighborhoods are social and prioritary, which means that we are in a context where we have a lot of criminality and poverty. So it's a city that has a very big history with that is very important for Guadeloupe, but that nowadays goes through very hard times. So this is a bit the context of where we got to. And so at the time, Aloha and I mainly, we were unemployed. I was, I think, 28 in 2000, 28, 29. And Aloha was 26. The other girls, they were 26. And at the time, we were unemployed. We didn't have cars. So Pointe-à-Pitre was a bit the place where we had to go in our kind of life. So we end up deciding to do the project there just because of that, and also because we understood that there was not a lot of propositions in terms of visiting the city and trying to understand how the city worked. So we did our project, and the objectives were to contribute to the social cohesion and inclusion within the city, to think the city otherwise, for social inclusion, to preserve and transmit the intangible cultural heritage of the city, and more specifically the memories of the elderly through digital means, and to create intergenerational connections and value the elderly of Pointe-à-Pitre. I noticed that Adina said that the intergenerational aspect was one of the main ones. So our project is completely in that movement of creating connections with our elderlies. And finally, we also thought it would be important from the beginning to promote the ESC in Guadeloupe, because our youth has much less opportunities in general in terms of being able to have access to funding even, and also to opportunities like Erasmus and ESC. So our main activity for this project was to collect the testimonials of the elderly people of Pointe-à-Pitre as in a filmed way. So we filmed them, and to convert them into free walking tours. So this was a bit the activity. It was the activities we did, but of course, we are talking about, I don't know if you noticed the dates, but COVID right during our project. So when we are talking about elderly, that was a bit of a weakness. It was not something we could predict, but that had a big impact. So before talking about how we dealt with COVID, I must say that one of our weaknesses, and I think this is what is interesting, it's also an opportunity for the ESC project, is that we made a lot of mistakes. We had to learn from experience. We didn't, for example, one of the main mistakes was that we didn't buy the right material to film. So the first videos are very bad, I can tell. We did our best, but we didn't have the skills. We had to learn. We bought, I remember at the time, we thought maybe it would be better to buy a phone with a good camera instead of a camera, which is not a good idea. Don't ever do that if you want well, iPhone maybe, but we didn't buy iPhone. And also I remember the sound is also very bad. We didn't know how very well where to put the people. So it was a bit of a mess. But I think this is what is interesting in the ESC project, is that we can do mistakes. It's not, it is it is for that, I think, a bit for the beginning of the projects as well. So then COVID crisis hit. We are in the middle of the project. We had all those problems in the beginning. We collected until then, I think, eight testimonials. And we are right in the middle of COVID. So we have to stop working with the elderly. That would be after for 1 year and a half. We couldn't, I think 1 year and a half, we didn't collect any more testimonials. But what was interesting is that, and that we go for the strength, is that the strength of the project is that it was a community-based project. So even though we had to stop the part with the elderly, we were still able to keep talking about the city with younger people then, either younger people in terms of not elderly adults, or the youth, because in the meanwhile, we also start working with schools from poor neighborhoods. So I think also one of the other strengths of the project is that we had clear goals for the future. And I think it's also something that Adina mentioned in her presentation. We knew from the beginning that this project was a means to get to being employed by our organization, to develop other projects, to create a network. We were very clear on the fact that ESC, it was not the destination. It was one of the steps to go through something a bit bigger than ESC, and as well something, and I think this is the main impact that ESC had in our organization, is that it opened new opportunities in terms of financing by the public, by the local institutions. So having had the financing of ESC made so that, for example, local government supported our projects afterwards. It was a bit of a validation for the other financiers, the fact that the project had been accepted and that had been financed by the European Union. So where are we now? Where is ŷLE Y A after, I think, 4 years since 3 years since the end of the project, 4 years since we started with the ESC. And I think this is a bit the main thing. So after the ESC, as I told you, so we had already started, during the ESC, we had started working with schools, which meant that we were doing our work with collecting testimonials. Well, in 2019, obviously, not 2000. We had already started at the same time as the ESC project working with schools so that young students could do the same process as us, talking with the elderly, and we were hoping at the time that they would be able to do tours as well. But and by being in the streets, as I don't know if you understood, but we didn't have a lot of money as unemployed student, young people. And so being in the streets and also having been able, I think, the years after the SC to create some reputation among the financiers and everything, we were able in 2021 as well to open our own space, which is kind of, it's called in French, third place. It's in between the house and the work. The idea is that it is a welcoming place where people come and feel like they are a bit at home, but to do professional engagements. And we decided to open this space in a very, very social neighborhood where that in Pointe-à-Pitre is one of the ones that has the worst reputation. But interesting fact, because sometimes it happens like this, it was a neighborhood where we felt the safest as young women walking in the streets. So we end up opening our space in this neighborhood. So since the ESC, we have implemented 7 projects. 3 of them I already told you about, the tours, 4 of them, the tours, the collecting the testimonials, working with schools, and our place. In this place, we help the inhabitants of the neighborhood develop their professional personal projects. So going back to finding jobs, learning how to read, write if they need, to use computer, developing language skills, creating businesses. So it's a really wide kind of place. We try to find solutions as the projects come and the requests come. And we also have a 5th project. For a while, we were helping young people that wanted to do ESC solidarity projects as well. And other small projects. And this year, between November and February next year, we are going to open a 2nd place where the idea is to help the inhabitants get more into technology and specifically the AI. So we also have, because of our neighborhood and how I don't know if you understood by now, but we work a lot in our perspective is that we don't have the answers to the problems, but when the problems come to us, we try to find solutions. So one of the groups that we have a lot in our place is victims of the prostitutional system. So there are a lot of prostitutes in the neighborhood. So we have a project now that will be specifically aiming at supporting the prostitutes that wish to quit prostitution. We have also a senior university that is going to open soon, plus the new place. And we have as well a project with schools that will start again with theater. So it's really wide. Today we are 2 employees. I'm the director and Aloha is the coordinator. And we have at least 3 new jobs that will be created in 2023, 2024. We already have the funds to do so. We just need time to do the recruitment. That is a very long process. So we need to motivate ourselves a bit more. Also, though, so through the years, we have had over 2,000 participants in our activities between the tours, the schools, and the people that come to our place. We've collected in the meanwhile over 30 testimonials. We have done over 200 free walking tours. So we've opened our space 2 years ago in the end of 2021. And I think this is a very interesting thing. is that we borrow our place to other nonprofits, especially nonprofits that are starting and don't have the possibility to have their own space. So we borrow our space when we are not there, which allows us to have even extra impact besides our activities. And today we have an LGBTQI plus organization, youth organization, that works with LGBTQI plus people in Guadeloupe. We have also another nonprofit that works with the prevention of HIV, and then we borrow sometimes, like more punctually, the place as well. So this is a bit what is happening now with ΗLE YA. I would say that the ESC was extremely important for us because, as I told you, it allowed for us to really have like a bit of to give the feeling for the next financiers that we could do, that we were able, that our project was validated by a big institution, and it allowed us to try the first steps of our projects without having too much pressure in terms of the finance.